What's the biggest fossil you ever found? Welcome to Fossil Fundamentals podcast, brought to you by fossiluk.com. I'm Byron, and in this show, we talk to fossil hunters, collectors, and experts to uncover the stories behind the fossils. Fossils aren't just stones, they're pieces of history hidden in plain sight, waiting to be found. And today's guest is someone who has taken that passion and turned it into a full-time career. You'll find him wandering the beaches of the Yorkshire coast. He is Mark Kemp. He is the Yorkshire fossil hunter. Welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Hello, thanks for having me, Byron.
Yeah, like I was saying just before we started recording, I just thought it would be interesting for people to meet the people that might see on the beaches, see online, see the guys that are doing the work, and talk to them and get people to know people. I think is the main goal. So I mean, I've got a list of questions for you. I mean, the first one really is taking it right back to the start and saying, how do you get into fossils? And can you remember the first fossil you found?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was always sort of interested in natural history growing up, but we didn't really live near the beach, so I didn't get much time for, going to the beach and collecting fossils. But I did do a lot of metal detecting, a lot of bottle digging and stuff like that. And we found a few fossils in the field.
It kind of that kind of side of it kind of is like a natural progression into finding stuff on the beach.
I agree. I mean, I remember finding ammonite fragments, but I thought there was like parts of vases, Roman vases and stuff like that.
All right, you mean in the fields and stuff like in the ploughed fields?
Yeah, so for months and months and months, I was finding these fragments, and I didn't even know they were fossils.
Yeah.
But then, my friend John Koza.
Yeah, I know John.
Dragged me to the North Yorkshire coastline about 15 years ago now, and the rest is history. Basically, I got absolutely addicted ever since then.
Yeah. So, what were the first fossils you started finding?
I remember seeing a couple of little fragments and a couple of little like impressions and stuff like that. But it was the first day I was out properly with John and Chris, and I turned this big slab of shale over, and I thought there was like a bit of wood on this shale. I showed it to and Chris, and they said, "Oh, you jammy bugger! It's only an ichthyosaur."
Well, so that was your first find.
Pretty much,
not like a really common fossil either. An ichthyosaur rib, marine reptile rib, is not the first thing you immediately find on the beach, is it? It's usually fragments of ammonites and belemnites and things.
I had seen fragments and bits and bobs and stuff like that. I set my standards quite high on that first visit.
Yeah. It was all downhill from then on, then, really.
Absolutely. But yeah, thanks to John and Chris, really, that got me into it. So we've got them to blame.
So here's a question for you. You actually left a full-time engineering job to pursue fossils full-time.
Yeah.
Was that a very difficult decision to do? Because obviously, a lot of the guys do it as a hobby. They go out on the beach at the weekends or whenever the spare time they've got and walk the beaches and what have you. But what was the decision made to do it full time?
It wasn't too difficult of a decision to make because I've had a few businesses in the past. I've always been a little bit entrepreneurial. So I like to go and earn my own money sort of thing. No, the engineering company, that's a family business. That's my brother's company. My mum works there. And obviously, if this doesn't work out for me, I've always got a job waiting for me to get a job there tomorrow. But it was really a case of every weekend and every night I was doing something fossil related for other people.
Yeah.
Regarding preparation, or I started doing a few guided walks early on.
Yeah. We'll get to those later, yeah.
Well, it got to the point where most of my weekends were full. And my wife said to me, you might as well bloody have a go at doing that as a business. And so I did.
Yeah.
Quit my job. And the next day I went.
I mean, it's quite a difficult decision to make when you've got family and to do something that I wouldn't say it was a normal job as such, is it? It's not going and doing like painting and decorating, which I know you used to do, or the engineering that you were doing. So it wasn't actually it's not a ready-made career option for many people, is it?
No, no, it's not, and there was definitely that was in the back of my mind, but I am the sort of guy where once I've made a decision, I'll just go for it. You know,
Yeah,
I don't do it
yeah.
half-hearted. So, yeah, it was in my brain. I made the decision, and then it was just all systems go from then. And I
So
either
so
make it,
part so a lot of the part of the business is mainly doing, you were finding fossils yourself
yeah,
and preparing them, which we'll come to in a little while, but you're also doing fossil preparation for other people. So they find fossils and you would clean them up and make them look nice. And then that natural progression then went into taking people out to look for fossils with the fossil tours. And then that then also then went into education in schools and things like that that I know you do as well.
yeah, I do a
So
lot of
so
school
it's
cooking
so it was
now.
just like a natural progression to do all those at some point.
Yeah, and I think it's quite important nowadays. If you're going to do something niche like this, you've got to have a few different avenues. You can't. I couldn't just rely on collecting and selling or just the walks. You
Yeah.
have to do many things
Yeah.
in this to
Yeah,
really.
absolutely. I mean, obviously, you're speaking to somebody who knows exactly about that.
Yeah,
A lot
exactly.
of people just see the hours of the opening hours on the door of the
Yeah,
shop and don't
it's not.
realise
Yeah,
all the other work that goes in and all the other avenues. And if one's a little bit quiet, then the other one takes up
yeah.
that bit of slack, and you've got to have a diversify your business
But there's
to
always
make it
something to do.
successful. Sorry.
There's always something to do when you've got different avenues. There's never a day I can't not do anything.
No, no, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, that's great.
Best decision I ever made, by the way, because now every day I'm doing something fossil related. I class the Yorkshire coast as my office,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
and people are paying me for it. So what more can I say? It's absolutely brilliant.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you basically taken the hobby and made it into a job, into a
Yeah,
full-time job, which you can do until whenever.
yeah. Until my knees give up.
Which for carrying big rocks around is yeah. I mean, I also play a lot of badminton as well, which not a lot of people realize. And
Yeah, I never knew that.
so that coupled with carrying big heavy rocks around, yeah, my knees are pretty much shot anyway.
And working obviously on construction sites before I did this,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was all heavy lifting and
yeah, yeah,
manual.
yeah,
Stuff.
absolutely. And sometimes they are heavy pieces of stone. It's like
Yeah.
I'll ask you before I can tell you, what is the biggest stone you've ever lifted off the beach?
It was probably the big stegosaur footprint from Saltwick Bay. That weighed 12 stone in weight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I had a very very similar piece of stone as well, or a big ammonite from Monmouth Beach was particularly bad.
yeah,
I could only just get it in the rucksack, and then it felt like a beached whale. I couldn't get up,
yeah,
so I had two guys pulling me up, and once I was up, it was fine. But and then it's a fairly flat walk. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, a stegosaur footprint from underneath Saltwick, that hurt a lot. That
yeah. It's
that
not fun,
really
is it?
hurt. So, but we do it for the love of it, don't we? Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I
yeah.
then went back down the beach and found another one, and I brought that one off. And then I went back down again. I thought, oh no, I'm not going back down again.
Yeah.
But that was probably about 20 odd years ago when I was much fitter.
The second heaviest one, I'll just say, is a partial plesiosaur from South Wales.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Collectively, that weighs about 30 stone, but I managed to get it off in several pieces.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Great, great. Um, right, we'll get onto the Yorkshire coast.
Yeah.
What makes it so special for fossil hunting?
Well, to begin with, it's Yorkshire, and Yorkshire's the best.
Yeah, two
There's no
Yorkshiremen
question about that.
talking on a podcast about Yorkshire.
Yeah, Yorkshire,
Who
say
who would
Yorkshire,
know?
everything's Yorkshire.
Yeah,
But it's just diversity for me. That a lot of people seem to be quite concentrated on the North Yorkshire stretch, the ammonites and the marine reptile. But to me, the full Yorkshire coast is absolutely fantastic for
yeah,
fossils.
and not a lot of people realise that actually you can find fossils all the way from whether you would call Redcar Yorkshire. Some people would. Some people don't. They call it Cleveland, but actually it's in North Yorkshire.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not true, no.
yeah, and you find the fossils in different parts, mainly in the Jurassic rocks, all
Yeah,
the way down to Sperm Point.
yeah, yeah, and I've had some incredible finds at Sperm Point, at the full Holderness Coast. In particular, at the moment, I'm really liking it around Scarborough for my trace fossils, which often get overlooked.
Yeah, 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 and they're more in the Middle Jurassic period
Yeah,
for things like dinosaur footprints you find in Yorkshire, and that's why it got the had the moniker for a long time as the Dinosaur Coast, because obviously the Jurassic Coast was already taken by Dorset, so we couldn't call it the Jurassic Coast, so we had to call it the Dinosaur Coast.
yeah, and it's a fitting name really because it is the dinosaur coast, and I
Yeah,
found so
yeah.
many.
I mean, a lot of people don't realise how many dinosaurs are actually found on the Yorkshire coast.
Yeah,
Not necessarily complete specimens.
no,
There has been maybe a handful of bones collected through the years, but mainly footprints of various different dinosaurs
yeah,
that are found on the beach. Megalosaurus, small, uh, like I say, chickeny things. There's a lot more chickeny things than there were big dinosaurs. Um, lots of swimming trackways.
yeah,
Also get I know that you get horseshoe crabs as well, Jurassic horseshoe crab resting traces where they were going along the ground. Yeah, it's a fascinating place, the Yorkshire coast.
yeah.
Not
It
just the
really,
ammonites, but also all the other stuff you can find.
yeah. The trace fossils to me, they really do. I've got a little tetradon trackway. I've got some dinosaur skin impression. You know, it's to me that just opens up a whole new world for fossil collecting.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I mean, and it's to do ultimately with the preservation of the rocks. The rocks are of a certain age and a certain makeup that makes fossilization very, very good.
Right,
Like for instance, the ammonites, they were preserved. It was mainly I think it was not open water as such, but very deep water, not a shelf environment, but very, very deep water.
right.
So it was very, very anoxic and very, very muddy. So anything that obviously died and sunk down into those deep depths and got covered with the mud got preserved very, very quickly because it was low in oxygen, and oxygen is what feeds the bacteria that makes it into other chemicals. So that's why one of the reasons why the Yorkshire coast is so good at fossils is because of that what we call the fossilization potential of the actual rocks itself. And then obviously then you get the deltaic material, which has the trace fossils in, which again
Yeah,
are completely different again.
yeah,
It's a great place to find fossils really.
yeah.
Do you think Yorkshire is underrated compared to somewhere like Lyme Regis?
Yeah, but we kinda like that, don't we?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a running joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between the don't tell the Southerners about the North, and the Southerners always say it's grim up north.
I get quite a few messages from some of the Dorset collectors, like saying how lucky I am when I do a post on Facebook and I share all of these wonderful finds, and they've been out and they found nothing or very little.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's more often than not, you do go out and find nothing. You can
Yeah,
go out and find nothing. Even on the Yorkshire coast, you can go out and find nothing. But you got a good chance to find at least a partial ammonite or a
yeah,
or a
yeah, exactly.
belemnite.
Yeah,
And they particularly, I think, one of the reasons why the Yorkshire coast is a little bit better because I think we've got more of the coastline to look at
it's much
than the
bigger.
Dorset coast.
Yeah, yeah,
They have a different type of environment, which obviously we'll talk about that in another episode with
yeah,
somebody else.
yeah,
But yeah, I think potentially, one of the things that I find particularly with Lyme Regis is obviously a lot of people. It's close to London.
yeah.
That's what I
It's not
get.
nothing, like, yeah,
Whereas I think Yorkshire is very underrated, particularly from a scientific point of view, because there's a lot of stuff that is actually found here that if it was researched, they'd find a whole lot of new information, scientific information
yeah.
about the
I
whole
agree.
coastline.
it's a good subject because we've got these triple SI designations, but there doesn't seem to be much science going on in Yorkshire, does there?
No, no, there doesn't. No, no. And I think it's only really in the past, say, 10 years that actually attention has been brought towards Yorkshire. There's obviously the let me just go and get it.
Yeah, yeah.
We have this book here, which is the Paleontological Association guidebook for the Yorkshire coast. And it was since that there has been a lot more interest in the Yorkshire coast scientifically since that book was written, but also the work done with Dean Lomax, finding the material in the Doncaster Museum back in the day, and writing up various museums, going to visiting museums and finding new things in the basements. I think that's what's really drawn an attention to the Yorkshire coast for the fossils, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And that in turn will make people more aware of the scientifically important specimens that are in museums in the Yorkshire area.
Yeah, yeah.
A big part of what you do isn't just finding the fossils, it's bringing them back to life through the preparation. So can you describe to people, bearing in mind not everybody's watching today, we've got to try and describe this whole process to people, because they might be
Sure.
listening it through podcasts that's only audio or in the car. So can you describe the whole process to those who don't know what fossil preparation is?
Yeah. So fossil preparation really in my words is, we've got these little pens, these little pneumatic pens, Chicago pens and stuff there. They've got little nibs on, little tungsten carbide nibs, and we're using them like a jackhammer, but in a much smaller scale. So we're chipping away little bits of rock while trying to reveal the fossil. But the trick is not to damage the fossil, obviously. Some fossils take 20 minutes to prepare, some fossils take hundreds and hundreds of hours to prepare. But the real trick is to know your rock, know your tools, and just take your time. Fossil preparation.
Yeah, and you've got a few videos online where you're showing people how you do that.
Yeah, from quite a few years ago now. I need to do a few new videos, but there's other preparation videos online. The Trevor
Trevor
Fossil
Sands,
Soft.
yeah.
He's got some fantastic videos.
Yeah.
And I think there's a guy down south who started doing some preparation videos. So there's loads of resources available online if anybody
So
wants.
we're taking these tools, which are a bit like an industrial grade dentist drill, effectively, isn't it? And we're chipping away and grinding the rock, trying not to damage the fossil. Luckily, in the Yorkshire coast area, when you get very close to the rock, it actually almost like a. I always view it as almost like a slight air pocket between the fossil and the rock. Sometimes,
I call it separation. There's a good separation in Yorkshire.
Yeah, there's a separation, so it peels away from the fossil quite well. Sometimes, not always, but it does peel away. So you're basically chipping away at that rock until it looks like something that you can then cut a base and make it into an ornament or into some kind of object of art or something like that. I mean, I kind of view it as more kind of like sculptural work.
Yeah.
In the way that it's done.
Some people will send me a batch of fossils to clean and they'll just say, I just want it cheap and cheerful. Other people will say, this is a really nice fossil. I'm quite happy for you to spend a bit more time and make it look sculptural. So it's a lot of like however the customer wants it most of the time. Gives me a budget of £100 and they give me 20 gaps to prep, then they're not going to get a great standard, are they? But if someone gives pretty much a blank check and says, make it look nice.
And I think preparation, fossil preparation, full stop, is very underrated. You see a lot of museums that have the big dinosaurs in the museums, but they don't really show the fossil from where it was found. The process that it's gone through to get it revealed into a museum, and for me that's ultimately the cost of a fossil is in that preparation.
Yeah, maybe there should be some more sort of videos and displays next to the specimens moving forward.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? I mean, to have that kind of a process. I mean, I know an awful lot of museums over in the States have almost like a gallery where you walk through and you can see people working. I'd love to see that in like the Natural Museum or something like that, really.
Maybe the Rutland Sea Monster might be getting recorded for some of the preparation during that.
That'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah,
You
yeah,
recorded the obviously excavation, didn't you? So it makes sense to record some of the preparation as well.
yeah, yeah. That'd be great. That would be really good to show people the skill work of that. It's one thing finding it, but then it's turn it into something that you then see in a museum
Yeah.
or put on the mantelpiece or whatever.
It's almost the finding bit is I'm not gonna say it's easy to find fossils, but, that's sort of the easier task than,
Yeah,
revealing the fossil, preparing the fossil,
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Like I say, I think it's an underrated skill set. That I mean,
Well, people go to museums and they see these specimens already prepped and displayed, and they don't even think about how they got there.
no, no, absolutely, and what they don't realise that they're even in a museum, those things have to be prepared out of the stone,
Yeah,
and that has a inherent cost to that because even if there's a technician that works in the museum, still they wouldn't be doing it for free. They'd be doing it for a wage, and that would take time. And that's for me. That's if you see a T Rex for sale in an auction for millions of pounds, there might be a reason for that because it's taken 3, 4, 5 years of a
yeah,
dedicated team of maybe 6 or more preparators, three or more years of their wages and time all year
yeah.
to
There's
prepare it.
hundreds of thousands of pounds just in wages there, isn't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Never mind transport costs and
Yeah.
materials,
Materials.
all
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like I said to you, that's the side of it that I don't, I think is very underrated, and not talked about very often.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's not glamorous.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
It's very dusty, and lots of rocks. And the amount of chips I've had to dig out my eye,
Yeah. Alright.
even when I'm wearing safety goggles, the dust seems to get in. Uh, yes, it's not glamorous at all, and you've got to upkeep your pens as well. Have you got a few
Yeah.
examples of the different types of pens that you use?
Yeah, so this one is the Chicago. This is an all-rounder pen.
Yeah.
This'll remove matrix and it'll do a lot of the fine detail work as well. Zoic Paleotech, as we know, do some
Yes,
fantastic
absolutely. Yeah.
pens. This is a bit more of a brunty one. This is a T-Rex.
Yeah, so that's the slightly bigger thing for taking more of the matrix
Yeah,
off
it's more
off
of a
or the
matrix
rock
removal.
off the specimen before you
You
get
can
down to the finer detail.
you can prep fossils with these, but mainly like the big Hildes and stuff where you get really good separation. I wouldn't be touching this, like on a rostrum or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to have two or three different types of pens anyway,
I've got about
because
10.
yeah, exactly. You got to have the different types because not every pen is good for one particular type of prepping. So for
Yeah,
instance, the Yorkshire coast is very pyritic
yeah,
nodules, high in iron parites, which are also known as fool's gold. So those are very, very difficult to prepare. Whereas you can get chalk fossils, which are very, very soft, where you could do it with a scalp.
yeah, yeah,
That kind of so you need everything in between that to prepare the fossils
yeah. I've got a pen
to dig
called
it
the
around.
Belor, and
Sorry.
the Belor's I've got a pen called the Belor, and that's a good pen for microscope work.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't use that for a DAC or an LD.
Yeah. So
That is,
that one's got a stylus or the pen nib that is very, very, very fine, almost like a
yeah,
needle, isn't it? It's almost like a
exactly.
needle point on the actual pen. So I think that particular pen is useful for prepping trilobites and very,
Yeah,
very fine detail work.
I've done some teeny tiny little fishes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some really if you need the really fine tip
Yeah. You
pen,
don't
that's
you don't want one of the big brutes to prep that
no.
because you won't see it again.
Yeah, you only make
That's right.
mistake.
But also, I think one of the big mistakes I see a lot of people using, particularly when they're starting to do fossil prep work, is keeping the pen stylus sharp. I see a lot
Yeah,
of people saying it's taking me ages to prep this thing, and then you look at the pen stylus and it's almost rounded. That's one of the reasons why it's taking you so long. If the sharper the pen nib, the quicker it goes through the rock.
Yeah, exactly. The nib is very much the business end of your pen, of your work.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're calling them pens because realistically, that's the way I use it when I'm prepping, is like a
Yeah,
pen, like a
yeah,
colouring in pen,
yeah,
effectively, almost. And some of the more chisel bigger ones, yeah, you might have to use two hands, but it's still effectively not trying to chisel off the rock as such, but you're trying to
yeah.
just remove the matrix down to where you need to be with the finer pens.
I sort of draw the line at that. If you need to use two hands, I'll just get the angle grinder out and an hammer and chisel.
Yeah, yeah, or you could use a rock saw to
Yeah,
cut off
yeah,
a lot of the, if you've got a rock saw, or a tile saw, but that doesn't really work on Yorkshire stuff. I don't think
no.
tile saws really. But no, I mean that's fantastic. I mean, we've talked about fossil preparation. Have you got
So
any tips or tricks you'd say to people about fossil preparation?
yeah, just if you want to get into fossil prep, then go collect yourself a load of common Dactyliocera ammonites from the Yorkshire coast. Prep 50, 100 of them, and you'll learn the different types of matrix, the different types of hardness, how your pens work, how they react to the matrix. Then onto some nicer stuff.
I mean, that's one thing that I did when I started fossil prepping, is used a lot of my scrap material first to get used to the way that the rock is removed from the stone. I never ever went straight in and prepped my best thing,
No.
because if you do that, you will ruin it.
Well, we've seen this with the way social media is nowadays. We see a lot of stuff, don't we? And if people find a fossil, they're entirely in their right to do whatever they want.
Yeah, but I would always start on the lower grade material, get used to the techniques, and then grade up into your better stuff. Or if you do want your nicer stuff prepared, you can always go to a fossil
Yeah,
preparator that will charge
yeah,
you a fee per hour, like yourself, and they'll do that work for you.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I agree.
Have you got a few of those fossils that you've prepared earlier
Yeah,
with
yeah. I
you?
brought a little selection here. We'll start off with the humble
Well,
Dactyliocera.
that's a very nice example. So Mark's showing us a really nice example of a Dactyliosauris ammonite, which an ammonite is like a cephalopod, which is like a squid-like creature that lived in the aperture, a bit like a octopus that had a hard shell on its back. So it's not a sea snail. I get called it a sea snail a lot, don't we? When we're on with kids, but it's actually a type of squid-like creature, and that's a really nice example, really nice big example, and complete
You can see the matrix.
to the body chamber. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the matrix it was in. So I could just see a little bit sticking out on the beach. And I knew it was going to be a nice size Dactyliocera. So instead of giving it a hit with a hammer, I decided to take it home and give it the treat.
And then you've removed all the rock, all the matrix. We call it matrix, is the rock that surrounds the fossil, and that actually you've taken all that rock off with the tools that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then made it into a lovely specimen that you'd see
Yeah,
in any museum.
absolutely. And then the next one I'm going to show you. So this one was actually on my workbench for about 2 years. I could see a little bit of bone sticking up the edge, and I just thought it was like a little bit of a rib bone or something. And eventually we got around to prepping it, and it ended up being a crocodile vertebrae.
Yeah. So back in the Jurassic period, crocodiles weren't like crocodiles we see today, but they actually were saltwater crocodiles that lived in the sea. And this is a single vertebra. Looks like a tail vertebra by the looks of it.
Yeah,
Tail vertebra
things.
from a marine crocodile. Very nice, and it's kind of like almost like a brown color against the grey rock. So that's how you
Yeah,
know. That's how you can tell that it might be bone, and parts of the bone can look a little bit like a centre of Malteser. That's how you know it's reptile bone,
yeah, it's got that
and
honey.
that hard rock has uh, been excavated by Mark to reveal the crocodile vertebra inside.
And I do like to leave little bivalves on the fossils as well. You can see these
Yeah,
little
yeah, little things
bivalves.
that were probably alive on the seabed, probably at the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
And then the last one, what I've prepared, what I'm going to show you is this weird looking objects.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a nice piece as well.
Yeah, so this is pretty much how I found it on the beach. You can see the cross sections. This is a really good thing to look for if you want to try and find bone on the Yorkshire coast. And then
Cross
inside
section through that, and so what we're looking at is go on, Mark. Tell everybody what it is.
is an ichthyosaur rostrum with some beautiful teeth preserved.
Yeah, lovely. And did you mechanically prepare that, or did you acid prepare that?
That's a good question. Neither. This was in a soft shell, so
Oh, okay. So it's all
I
air
actually
abrasive.
yeah, air abrasion. Yeah,
Okay.
I had a batch of old aluminium oxide that I used on this one. It's softened up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely.
You
So
wouldn't get these sort of
just
results.
to let everybody know that mechanical preparation is you can actually use chemicals to dissolve rock around it because the chemicals react to the stone and dissolve the stone, but actually the leaves the fossils behind. But you can only do that on certain things like fossil bone, for instance. But whereas this has been air abraded, which means it's like basically an air abrader is shoots out a very fine medium of like almost like flour,
Yeah,
and it basically dissolves the rock in front of you like a sandblaster, but a very, very fine detailed one. And that's what you used on that particular specimen.
yeah. So obviously, if we use like mechanical equipment like pens on this, it'd just completely ruin the teeth.
Absolutely.
So you've got to know what you're doing when it comes to special
Yeah.
fossils like this.
Something like that, Mark. How many hours did that take you? Can you remember?
Yeah, this one wasn't too bad actually because it was just quite a thin layer of shell. I think I got it done in like 6 hours, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas, what about the crocodile? Was that about similar? But that's what harder work, wasn't it?
Yeah, the crocodile vertebrae was like 3 or 4 hours, maybe a little bit longer. I did this one quite a while ago,
Yeah.
but then the ammonite that probably took me, an hour, 2 hours,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And obviously, the bigger the stone, the
Yeah,
more rock that's on it, the longer it's
yeah.
going to take.
Well, I'm currently preparing an ichthyosaur that we found recently, and I'm about 130 hours into that one,
Wow.
and it's
130
nowhere near
hours.
finished.
That's just not even scratching the surface, probably.
No, we've done a lot of the tail, we've done 2 paddles, but we've still got the rest of the creature, including the skull to do. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And the skull will take a lot of time.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I
I've
mean,
also got I've got some unprepared specimens. Should we show
oh
them
yeah,
as
yeah.
well?
Show people what they look like when they're on the beach.
Exactly. A lot of people want to know what they're looking for, and this is a classic Whitby mudstone nodule. You can just see the ammonite protruding from the rock there.
So you got a grey coloured rock, grey coloured pebble that was on the beach. Sometimes looks like I call them kind of almost like a rusty potato.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah,
and you can actually see the actual ammonite sticking out of the rock there. Yeah, yeah, like well, go on. I mean, we know because we take kids out on the beach, but basically they look like fossil hamburgers.
yeah, yeah. The ammonite being the patty and the matrix being the bread either side. But that's a really good thing to look for. If you're going fossil hunting this summer, get your eye in for these sort of shapes and sizes.
Absolutely, absolutely, and like that one you had there in your hand, Mark.
Yeah,
That particular specimen. So what you would do with that one is then just excavate down through the rock
yeah,
with the
yeah,
pens, and then reveal it, and bring it out and cut a base on it maybe, and then it can go on somebody's mantelpiece.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, sometimes we do a little bit of rock splitting on the coast. If you've got a specimen of what you think's going to split well, and it's a bit of fun in it. Everybody likes to do a bit of rock splitting. This is a really good example of that. We just saw the ammonite sticking out
Yeah,
there.
another pebble with an ammonite sticking out like a burger in a bun, and that one has been split to reveal the inside of the ammonite. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah. That really, when you see the kids and you've done that for them, and
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
open it up, and the faces light up like Christmas Day, don't they?
Not just the kids, man does as well. Nobody's bored of a good split.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible that because ultimately you're the first person in 180 million years to see that
Yeah,
fossil inside
yeah.
that rock. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, we always try and save a couple for the end of the walk as well, to finish
Yeah,
on a high. It
yeah,
was a
yeah,
nice,
yeah. Absolutely, yeah,
nice night.
yeah. No, that's great. What's the best fossil you've ever found?
Well, I get asked this question a lot, and it's really difficult to answer, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is for us because we
Yeah.
obviously we're in the trade. Yeah, yeah,
The dinosaur skin impression is pretty up there. It's quite rare, isn't it?
absolutely. I mean, it doesn't have to be the biggest. Okay, it doesn't have to be the biggest, but it can be something about the size of a 20 pence piece,
Yeah.
like a piece of dinosaur skin or something like that. That if you found it, that is, it's like it's up there with winning the lottery,
Yeah.
isn't
I've
it?
got a really tiny little gryph here, just about that big, but in the mouth border, there's an Arnioceros ammonite.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, like
absolutely.
that.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest,
No.
but but some of your best fossils are quite small.
Yeah. I have got a really big crocodile bone block, which will probably stay up there for a long time, would be one of my favourites, mainly because of the story behind it.
Yeah,
Uh,
go on, tell us all about the story. Go on, go on.
well, I was down collecting at horse school with a friend of mine, Nick Hannigan. So if you're watching this, Nick, I do apologise. But he's obviously been nagging about finding a croc bone block for quite a few years now. So we're walking back with heavy bags, and I look down. There's this big bone block with a big footprint on it. It's Nick's footprint.
Oh dear,
He's 20, 30 foot in the distance. I'm looking down, thinking, bloody hell, that's crocodile bone, that.
oh dear. So he'd walked past this
We walked on top of it.
on top of it. He walked on top of it, didn't see it that was bone inside. Wanted a crocodile piece, and you just happened to be walking behind him, and then spotted it
Yeah.
and
So
carried it
then
off.
we spent 2 hours excavating it because it was stuck between 2 large rocks.
Okay, yeah.
Because I had a heavy bag, he decided to carry the crocodile bottom block off the beach for me.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only did you find it and he wanted it, you actually made him
Yeah.
carry it off as well.
Yes,
Dear.
yes.
Yeah, I don't
But that
think
was
you'll
a
ever
good
live
day,
that down.
Yeah, really good day.
Yeah. No, I've got many stories like that as well
Yeah.
myself.
And this is part of fossil hunting, we make friends, we have good laughs, we have jokes, and, we just went on our own and did a bit of collecting, and you never really had them sort of experiences to go with it. Would we still do it? I don't think we would.
No, I like I say it's all the stuff. I personally like all the stories that are involved with
Yeah, yeah.
fossils. You probably heard the one with the fox. That was one of my best ones, I think.
Right, yeah, that was a
That
good
was a
story.
great
I've
one.
picked up the foxes on the Holderness Coast with me a few times. That's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Right. Okay. So we've done all that. And have you got any advice for beginners? If someone is listening and wants to get into
Yeah,
fossil hunting,
yeah.
what would you advise? And what's one of the things that most beginners get wrong?
Well, first of all, I would say there is so much information online now. There's
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of YouTube videos. There's some really good, educational YouTube videos. Fossiliferous, absolutely fantastic. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's loads of Facebook pages, Yorkshire Fossil Hunters, Fossil Collectors UK. There's loads of information, so you can't really get off to a wrong start anymore because it's all there, it's all available.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of, a bit of getting your head around what to do and where to go. Then just go collecting. Make sure you check your tides. Stay away from the cliffs. Just go collecting. Go often. Go every weekend or a couple of times a week, whenever you can fit it in.
Yeah, and just get out there. Just get out there, and just remember the safety side. Obviously, just obviously, the best fossils are never in the cliff face. They're always in pebbles on the beach. The loose pebbles on the beach. The more pebbles on the beach, the more fossils you're going to find.
Exactly.
And always check the tide times. Always go out on a falling tide. Never ever go on the beach when the tide's coming in, because you're going to get trapped by the incoming tide.
Yeah.
So always go
Yeah.
out on a falling tide.
But there's no substitute for just getting out there and getting collected. I get quite a few messages and emails from disgruntled collectors that've been out once in 2 years, and they're moaning that they're not finding much. And it's like, well, I go out 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
it's my job.
I mean, obviously it's your job. Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
can't probably go out as much as that, but
We
yeah,
do
more
know
times you go on the beach, the more fossils you're going to find, aren't you?
we know a lot of people who work, 5 days a week, and they're out every weekend, don't we?
Yeah, yeah,
And those people find stuff.
yeah,
Where the
yeah.
people that only go out once in a blue moon on a cracked tide.
And to be fair, you can go on the beach and there can be other people on the beach and you'll find stuff that they've left.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. On my walks, we walk quite slow, and we're often getting overtook by other collectors and stuff, which is fine. The beaches are for everybody. But because we're walking slow, we find so many more fossils than
Yeah.
the average people. You know,
Well, I alluded to this earlier, but all the kids really want to know all these questions in the quick fire round. So it's based around the kids wanting to know these things. What's the biggest fossil you ever found?
plesiosaur from South Wales.
Very good. And how big was that? Was that
It's about 9 foot long in total.
9 foot long? But
Yeah.
obviously, what we talked about earlier, you didn't take that all off in one go. It
No,
came
that
off
was
in
about
smaller
yeah,
slabs, and then
yeah,
ideally you'd be piecing that together to make it
yeah,
back to where it was. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It all goes together really, really well. I just haven't managed to get around to prepping it yet, funnily enough.
No, no, no. We're all
Yeah,
busy men.
yeah.
Your favourite place to hunt in Yorkshire? And I should
Mm.
like I said to Steve, I should have said, "Where's your best place to hunt anywhere?" Really, because you're not just Yorkshire. You've gone all over the place.
Yeah, I go all over, but my favourite place is always going to be in Yorkshire, let's be honest.
Yes.
Now, Pennis, at the moment, my favourite place to go collecting is Berniston.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's a lovely
that's just
beach.
north of Scarborough,
Correct,
and
yeah.
that's mainly dinosaur footprints and the
Yeah,
odd plant material that you can
yeah,
find, fossil plant
absolutely.
material. It's not necessarily a place you go to find ammonites,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's where it is. It's just slightly north of Scarborough, between Scarborough and Whitby, and it's mainly Galenian, which is Middle Jurassic period rock that you're looking at.
yeah. It's just a special place.
Absolutely. Best museum you've ever visited?
Oxford Natural History Museum.
Oh, that is a really good one actually, because that is museum of a museum. It's absolutely rammed full of great British fossils, including the iguanodon as well. Yeah, that is a really good one. Yeah, just fantastic stuff there. And we did this in the last episode. The kids want to know, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Stegosaur.
Oh, that's a good classic. Good
It's a
classic.
yeah, yeah. I'm playing it safe there, aren't I?
Yeah, good classic. Good classic dinosaur. Middle Jurassic again. Middle Jurassic
Yeah,
dinosaur.
yeah,
Just an all round classic dinosaur.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I do have a soft spot for the biggest dinosaur ever found as well, the
Oh,
Argentinosaurus. It's
Argentinosaurus as
impressive
well.
just because of its size.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that the kids will definitely know Stegosaurus.
I'm not a massive dinosaur fan. I know that might like shatter a few kids' worlds, but yeah, I'm more about my my marine creatures and the stuff we find. That's what really fascinates me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's this next one is kind of linked to the last one, really, because the kids really want to know, what's your best dinosaur joke?
How many press ups can a T-Rex do?
I don't know.
None, because they're all dead.
Hmm. Hmm.
The kids laugh on me walks at that one.
No, I mean, when we're on the walks, we get so many, don't we? Get so many
Yeah,
of the jokes from the kids. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, a blind dinosaur. Do you think you saw us? That's the one I
yeah.
always get told. But my favourite at the minute is, what do you call a sleeping dinosaur?
I don't know. What do you call a sleeping dinosaur?
A dino snore.
God. Yeah. What's that one, didn't I?
The
Yeah.
kids love it. The kids love him. The kids love him. Okay, Mark. So thanks a lot again for coming on the podcast and having
No worries.
a discussion about all these weird and wonderful fossils and just having a bit of background about yourself and a bit about fossil preparation and any tips and tricks and what have you. So what's next for you?
So what's next for me is pretty much more of the same, more guided walks, more fossil preparation. I'm excited at the moment. I might be getting some work with the Oxford Natural History Museum. I'm doing a little bit of work with Nigel Lack, and I might be getting on the Rutland Sea Monster and stuff like that. So it's all moving really fast and forward, which is good. If anybody wants to find me, I'm the Yorkshire Fossil Hunter on Facebook, Instagram, and I've got a website as well. So feel free to search for the Yorkshire Fossil Hunter.
Okay. So big thank you to Mark again today.
Thanks for having me.
And everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to watch another, and as well as like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. That'll keep us growing the show and having a few people on. You can also check out our latest fossil for sales on the website, and an upcoming fossil hunts available as well at fossilsuk.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode, hopefully. Thank you very much.